Steve, what was your reaction when you were asked to create this painting?
I've been interested in history my whole life, and to have the opportunity to paint an event that actually happened from the Revolutionary War that I'm very interested in was just incredible. I was excited about it, and working with John was fantastic.
Were you familiar with this particular incident?
I was not. John provided me with the story, and I was fascinated. One thing that I find incredibly fascinating is that the pay stub still exists from one of the sailors, and it is so incredible. And I believe that's how the story came about. But through reading the story, I knew it was something that I wanted to illustrate. It's just fascinating.
And what was your time frame for creating this image?
What it ended up taking was about 3 months in the drawing process and 1 month in the painting process. I know a fair amount about the period, but I wanted to be very specific and very accurate. For instance, a ship, I had never painted a ship before, and I didn't know much about tall ships. So I reached out to some people that I knew. John also has a lot of knowledge, and I read a lot to try to find out about the rigging, about the particular type of ship, which this was a brigantine. And I also spent a lot of my life as a tree climber, so ropes and knots I'm very familiar with.
What in particular should we notice when observing this image?
I think what I wanted to show was the human side of the militia and the people involved, and the fact that they were from different classes, that they were all working together for a common goal, that normally they would have been working the farm or fishing out in the same bay, but that they saw an opportunity, got together, and took it.
How did you determine what the uniforms of the officers and the other men would look like?
Well, through research, I knew that at this time a militia did not have a uniform that was provided by the Continentals. So many of them would have been wearing their own everyday clothes. I did want the officers, I believe at this time, would have financed and had their own uniforms created. Sometimes they would have been similar to uniforms that were comparatively to Continental officers. But I wanted the look of a uniform on a couple of people, but mostly it would have been their normal everyday attire.
John, what was it that motivated you to commission this painting?
Well, over the last 3 years, we've been commissioning artists to illustrate some of the most important stories from Monmouth County's 400 years of history. And clearly, some of the older stories are the ones that are most badly deserving of art. And certain aspects of the Revolutionary War in this area have gone largely overlooked. So when the people from the Daughters of the American Revolution surfaced with this amazing story, it had all of the elements that I was looking for to create a new illustration that would really show what the Revolutionary War experience was like here in Monmouth County, involving some of the non-traditional participants. So there's no redcoats in this particular image. There are no Continental soldiers in blue, and it is more of the civilians who were involved in this conflict. And that was exactly what we thought was something that was missing, and that we wanted to contribute.
Was there a particular significance of you for this event?
Not necessarily. It was more that it is an example of something that was going on all the time in that era. This back and forth pitched battle between the civilians of Monmouth County, the patriots going over to Staten Island and Sandy Hook and raiding the loyalists who were there, and vice versa. The role of privateers in the Revolutionary War is not a well understood concept. So we wanted to illustrate and bring that to life. So it wasn't this particular event in and of itself isn't like sort of like, say the Battle of Monmouth, a historically significant event. But that's exactly the point. Is it typifies what the American Revolution was like in Monmouth County. It was a series of smaller skirmishes and conflicts involving smaller numbers of combatants.
How did you choose Steve Schreiber, the painter?
It proved to be more of a challenge than I would have thought, and so when Melissa Ziobro, history professor at Monmouth University, met artist Steve Schreiber, she knew that I was someone who was looking to hire local artists, and she put us in touch. And Steve's incredible genius and talent was obvious to me from the outset. I could tell immediately from looking at his portfolio of work that he was a stickler for accuracy and historical detail. And so it was absolutely a no-brainer for me that I wanted to work with Steve, and I couldn't be happier with how it worked out.
The Historical Society has very generously offered to lend the library this beautiful painting that we'll be seeing in a few minutes, done by Steve Schreiber, that we're going to hang on the walls of the new history room. We're all in this town and in the library very committed to the preservation of our town's history, New Jersey history, so we're very excited this painting is going to be a wonderful addition to the room.
And so he donated it to the Historical Society, and we don't have a building of our own right now, but as I said, we do have our speaker series here in the library. It's been so excellent to us, so first thing we thought of is that we'd love to hang it here. So I went to Kate, director of the library, and she said, sure, we'd love to have it, and we were so happy that it will be here, and we consider the library to be a hub of learning of Middletown, so I just think it's a fabulous place for it to be.
On the December 29, 1777, a British brig moored in Sandy Hook Bay broke loose from its moorings and started drifting towards the bay shore. What you may not know is the people who lived along the bay shore were on the frontier of the Revolutionary War because the British controlled Sandy Hook and the Patriots were in Middletown along the islands and all the way up to the Southampton. So the opportunity arose when people saw this ship laden with cargo floating loose in the bay. The 1st Regiment of the Monmouth Militia, commanded by Esher Holmes, gathered and managed to get a line on the ship and to tow it off to an inlet somewhere near Cheesequake, we think, where they dismantled the entire boat and sold the cargo, the fittings, down to the hull, and made quite a bit of money. There were 163 men from the 1st Regiment of the Monmouth Militia involved in this, and they all got a share of the prizes. Of course, the officers got the biggest share, and the ordinary people, such as the private, my ancestor, Richard Poling, who was part of the dismantling and guarding of the ship, he got 2/3 of 1 share of the profits. But even still, I'm sure that was a huge windfall for his family, and they probably lived off that money for the next 2 or 3 years.